Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 271. It's okay to change your mind, especially if you don't like where you're headed or you begin to see disaster ahead. I suspect this episode will ruffle a few feathers, especially for those who lack situational humility and who belong to the "I've started so I'll finish" brigade, and those who see a change of mind, or heart as it sometimes is, as a weakness, are so divorced from reality that it's laughable. The pace of life and the VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous times we're living through means that most decisions and courses of actions should be being reviewed regularly. It actually drives me potty when we glorify someone for sticking to their guns even when all of the evidence is screaming, "Stop! Change direction." But it takes a certain kind of leader to have the moral courage to do that and co-create a better solution. It reminds me of a lovely parable that I sometimes share on leadership training that goes something like this. A Navy battleship is on a training exercise at sea. The captain sees a light ahead and sends a message. "This is the USS or HMS, whatever. Please divert your course 15 degrees to the north to avoid collision." The reply comes, "We recommend you divert your course 15 degrees to the south to avoid collision." The captain, annoyed, responds, "This is a Navy battleship. I order you to change your course." The reply, "This is a lighthouse. Your call." The battleship changes course. I think the moral of that story is particularly pertinent right now, as we're in the grip of some damned arrogant leadership that assumes authority or position guarantees that their decisions are beyond reproach. That's just pure ignorance-flavoured poppycock, and it usually results in the mother and father of all shitshows. You see, it takes bravery and a genuine concern for doing the right thing by those impacted to change course. And yet, for we introverts already out on a limb in terms of the societal norms, it's so often wrapped in guilt for fear that we may be perceived as weak, unreliable or indecisive. Well, screw that. Because the reality is we are as entitled to lead a happy, fulfilling and meaningful life as the next person. And each of us making a stand for this in our own lives is our quiet rebellion in action. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm also not a fan of those who change their minds with the wind, as that tends to lead us on a merry goose chase. So for me, this is where my purposeful curiosity and resolute pragmatism principles come to the fore. So let's dig a little deeper about how we can stay aligned with our mission or intentions in life without being swayed by the latest fad, trend or influencer. The first thing we need to get over is the guilt you may feel when you realise that the path you chose, maybe publicly and proudly at some point, isn't leading where you hoped it would. This low-level gnawing in your gut, awakened of course by your inner critic, is the potential birthing of shame if you allow it to go that far. I realise that this is the very reason that I dislike and therefore tend to avoid traditional goal setting. It's the potential loss of face that I had to come to terms with. So I do believe that there is something bigger culturally that we need to address about not hitting worthy goals or aspirations. At least we aimed for something, and even if we didn't quite get there, I bet we made some progress. And progress is progress. It's better than being frustrated at being stuck in the same old place. We know as introverts we have a tendency to overcommit and want to be seen as consistent, even when it's clearly hurting us. Why are we punishing ourselves by sticking to our guns, though? How is that serving us or those around us? Are we making the most of those scant 4,000 weeks that we are gifted? As in the naval example I shared at the start of this episode, changing course is not a failure. It's feedback that we can learn from. That gnawing feeling and loss of mojo is your mind, body and soul trying to save you, not betray you. But if you choose not to pay attention, you're likely to cling to goals and intentions that are outdated, but worse than that, damaging. Of course, it may feel safer in the short term, but I can pretty much guarantee it won't feel easier, or more joyful, or more stimulating. I'm sure you'll agree with me that it's neither living your truth nor treading the flourishing path. Because what you're feeling is most likely a deep, pit of your stomach sense of disconnection, maybe even upset at still not being where you want to be, accompanied by the unmistakable tug of inauthenticity as you put a brave face on your growing sadness. You can fool the outside world for a while, but not yourself. So how do we shift from that sad, guilt-ridden, stuck place of frustration? Here are a few methods and techniques that I've employed over the years as appropriate, and you're welcome to swipe them with my blessing. You'll notice that they are more evolution than revolution, which makes them easier to adopt in my experience. The first is a reframe, and it's that changing your mind is not failure. It's proof you're thinking, noticing, reflecting, processing, discerning and growing. So it's not a sudden flaky change of mind, but a considered change of direction to one more aligned with your real aspirations. The second is a reckoning, which is that you don't owe your past self eternal loyalty. You did your best with what you had available to you at the time, and now you know better, you'll do better. We are all work in progress. The third will be a stretch for some, and it's this: certainty is overrated. The truth is that there is very little that is certain in life, except, as Benjamin Franklin so wisely said in 1789, death and taxes. So rather than clinging on for certainty, how about opening up to curiosity? Because that's where the magic is, and it's more likely to get you further. The fourth is a bit of a rude awakening, and it's that if the room is too small, remember you're allowed to leave it. Of course, by room I also mean relationship, job, aspirations, etc. And I would go so far as to say you're duty bound to leave it, as no one really wants to leave this mortal coil with the regret of what might have been. And finally, the fifth is realising that adjusting your course is wise, not weak. The wisest amongst us tend to make small, moment-by-moment adjustments, just as in John Cleese's Gordon the Guided Missile story. Each of these small adjustments are not mistakes, but corrections to reach the final destination. It's this kind of queen or king or chaotic wizard behaviour that means we're making progress rather than staying stuck. Now, how do I pull the threads of this episode together? I can think of no better way than to say this. Quiet courage is one of the most underestimated superpowers out there, so own it. Changing your mind isn't flaky, it's intelligent, it's mature, it's often the bravest thing you can do. You're not betraying yourself by shifting direction. You're meeting yourself exactly where you are now with where you want to be heading in mind. That's not confusion. That's evolution. So I encourage you to reflect on those times when you've made a decision to shift direction and your life changed for the better. And where are you in the messy middle of shifting right now? What are you considering, and what will it take to get you to take the next step? Now is your time to acknowledge how far you've come, the changes you've already navigated, so you can ready yourself for your continuing evolution. The times, they are a-changing, and so are we. So I wonder what's next. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.